Have you ever wondered why it's so hard to let certain people go even when you know they're not good for you? Emotional attachment can trap us in toxic relationships, creating the illusion that we can't be happy without these connections. But the truth is that freedom and true happiness only arise when we learn to let go in a healthy way. Letting go doesn't mean stopping loving. It means loving without losing yourself. Today, I'll show you 5 powerful ways to let go of people, allowing you to live more lightly and authentically without the weight of emotional chains. Ready to discover the path to true freedom? Please help us share this message of hope and encouragement with others who may be at their own crossroads, unsure of what the future holds, by liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. Topic 1. The complexity of emotional dependency. Imagine that each person in your life has an invisible string tied to your heart. These strings, which represent emotional bonds, pull you in different directions, controlling your emotions and often your happiness. It's as if every emotion, every laugh or tear is tied to these subtle threads, which, though invisible, carry considerable weight. These bonds can be so intense that without realizing it, you begin to lose yourself in them, becoming dependent on the people who hold them. Stoicism teaches us the importance of recognizing these connections and questioning how healthy they are for our personal development. Now, it's no secret that these bonds can be deep and meaningful, often bringing a comforting warmth. Who hasn't felt the warmth of a friendship or a romantic relationship that seemed to be the center of the universe? However, the same string that binds us can, if too tight, suffocate us. Emotional dependency sets in when these ties become so strong that we can no longer imagine ourselves without them. On this journey of self-discovery, Stoics suggest that true growth comes when we find a balance between loving others and loving ourselves. But how do we find that balance? Imagine yourself walking on a suspension bridge. On one side is love for others, and on the other is self-love. Each step is an attempt to balance these two sides without falling into the trap of dependency. The Stoics remind us that just as a bridge needs balance to stay firm, our emotional lives also require a delicate balance. It's not about cutting those strings, but loosening them enough so that we can breathe without losing sight of who we are. The truth is that many of us don't realize how much these strings hold us back until it's too late. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times your decisions were influenced by the fear of disappointing someone? This is one of the most common traps of emotional dependency. Stoic philosophy invites us to reflect on these ties and question how much we are willing to sacrifice our well-being in order to keep them intact. It's natural to feel divided at times, pulled in opposite directions by these invisible strings. Perhaps you've already experienced the feeling of wanting to please everyone, even when it meant ignoring your own desires. However, the modern Stoic understands that true strength lies not in pleasing others at any cost, but in finding the courage to let go when necessary to preserve your inner peace. The practice of letting go begins with awareness. Identifying these strings and recognizing the impact they have on your emotional life is the first step. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Stoic philosophy suggests that by understanding these ties, you begin to free yourself from them, allowing your life to flow with more lightness and purpose. This is a life lesson that Stoics have practiced for centuries, and one that can transform the way you approach your relationships. Now that we've started to unravel these emotional strings, it's important to understand how they form and why they often keep us trapped. After all, recognizing the existence of these ties is just the beginning of the journey. Topic 2. Identifying emotional bonds. Have you ever noticed how certain people seem to have the power to change your mood with just a simple gesture or word? It's as if they have a key to your feelings, capable of opening doors to joy or sadness in a matter of seconds. These emotional bonds, though often valuable, can become true anchors, preventing you from moving forward. Imagine, for example, a friend who, despite all the good times, manages to ruin your day with a negative attitude. Stoic philosophy teaches us the importance of identifying these bonds and understanding how they impact us before they become obstacles to our personal development. Sometimes the connection is so deep that even when the relationship becomes toxic or painful, we remain attached. Think of that relationship where, despite constant fights and emotional exhaustion, it seems impossible to leave. The fear of the unknown, of being alone, or of losing what has already been built often keeps us stuck in these situations. The Stoics, over the centuries, practiced the art of recognizing these fears, understanding that true strength lies in letting go of what prevents us from growing. Identifying these bonds doesn't mean we should cut all relationships that cause us discomfort. Instead, it's about understanding which of these connections bring us more pain than joy. A practical example would be re-evaluating your friendships. There are friends who bring light and energy, but there are also those who constantly bring you down. The modern Stoic knows that life is too short to be lived amid relationships that drain our energy and thus chooses carefully those who deserve their time and attention. The fear of letting go is often tied to the unknown. What will happen if I let go of this person is a common question. But the Stoics remind us that the future is uncertain anyway, and trying to control every aspect of our lives only leads to exhaustion. Instead, the focus should be on cultivating relationships that genuinely contribute to our well-being and personal development. It's an exercise in self-awareness and discipline, where detachment is the key to living a lighter and more meaningful life. There's also the issue of the expectations we place on others. We expect certain people to act in a particular way, and when that doesn't happen, disappointment is inevitable. But the modern Stoic understands that the only thing we can control is our own reaction, not the actions of others. Therefore, when identifying these emotional bonds, it's crucial to also recognize the unrealistic expectations we often place on others and begin to let them go, allowing each person to be who they are without the pressure of meeting our needs. As we begin to identify and understand these bonds, we realize that they are often a construction of our own ego, seeking external validation and security. Emotional detachment, therefore, is not about becoming cold or indifferent, but about recognizing the impact of these connections and consciously deciding which ones are truly worth keeping. The Stoics teach us that true emotional freedom comes from within, not from relationships that are often beyond our control. Recognizing these attachments is the first step in freeing ourselves from them. But how do we let go? How do we release these strings that seem so deeply rooted in our lives? That's the next step in the journey. Topic 3. The power of letting go. Letting go is a subtle art, almost a paradox. By letting go, we gain more control over ourselves. Imagine a busy road filled with cars going in all directions. Now picture yourself trying to control each of these vehicles, an impossible and exhausting task. So is life when we try to control all aspects and people around us. The modern Stoic understands that true power doesn't lie in trying to hold the reins of everything, but in allowing things to follow their natural course. By letting go, you don't lose care but gain emotional freedom, making room for what truly matters. The concept of letting go is often misunderstood as indifference or lack of love, but in reality, it's the opposite. Letting go means allowing life to flow with its own wisdom, free from the chains of fear or the need for control. Think of a fruit tree. It doesn't cling to the fruits it produces. Instead, it lets them fall naturally, trusting that new flowers and fruits will appear in the next season. Similarly, letting go of certain people or situations allows new opportunities and relationships to flourish, bringing renewal and growth. In everyday life, detachment can be practiced in various ways. For example, when faced with a difficult situation, instead of trying to solve everything on your own or worrying about what's out of your control, the modern Stoic suggests a lighter approach. How about adopting a routine that brings you purpose and satisfaction? It could be something simple, like dedicating 15 minutes a day to meditation, practicing a hobby that brings you joy, or even keeping a gratitude journal. These practices help cultivate a serene and detached mind, strengthening your ability to deal with life's challenges. The metaphor of the busy road illustrates well how detachment can relieve the burden we carry on our shoulders. If you continue trying to control every detail of your life, you will soon find yourself exhausted, without energy for what truly matters. Letting go isn't about abandoning your dreams or goals, but recognizing that not everything depends on you. By releasing the strings that hold you, you become more flexible and adaptable, able to move forward even in the face of uncertainties. Stoicism teaches that serenity comes from accepting what we cannot change and focusing on what is truly within our reach. Letting go also means letting go of unrealistic expectations. How many times have you found yourself frustrated because you expected things to happen in a certain way? The Stoics suggest that instead of creating rigid expectations, we should be open to what life offers us, accepting surprises and challenges as part of the growth process. It's like releasing a rope that's hurting your hands. The relief is immediate and the pain begins to fade, allowing you to move forward with lightness. By practicing detachment, you begin to realize that life doesn't have to be a constant battle. Instead, it can be seen as a flow where things come and go, and what truly matters is how you navigate this river of experiences. By allowing life to take its course without desperately clinging to what has already passed or what has yet to come, you find an inner peace that once seemed unattainable. This is the power of letting go, freeing yourself from the invisible chains that are often self-imposed. And so, by understanding the power of letting go, the need to understand attachment itself arises. After all, where does it come from and why do we find it so hard to leave it behind? Let's explore that next. Topic 4. Understanding attachment. Attachment is a creation of the ego, an attempt to maintain security in a world where the only constant is change. Imagine attachment as a dam in a river. At first glance, it may seem useful, controlling the flow of water, but over time, this dam can divert the river's natural course, accumulating pressure and eventually causing damage. Attachment works similarly in our lives. It creates an illusion of control, but in the end, it takes us away from our authentic essence. Stoicism teaches that true emotional freedom is only possible when we understand that our value is not tied to these attachments, but to our own essence. We often cling to people, situations, or objects because we believe they define or complete us. It's as if we're holding onto a rope with all our might, afraid that by letting go, we'll lose something essential. However, the modern Stoic knows that this rope is in fact an invisible prison. A practical example would be attachment to a job that no longer brings satisfaction, yet you cling to it out of fear of what comes next. Stoicism suggests that by letting go of this attachment, new opportunities arise, allowing you to rediscover your true potential. Attachment is a manifestation of fear, fear of losing, fear of the unknown, fear of not being enough. But contrary to what it seems, letting go doesn't mean abandoning everything at once or isolating yourself from the world. It actually means allowing love, not fear, to guide your decisions. A good example is the practice of cultivating gratitude. Instead of clinging to what could be or what has already passed, the modern Stoic chooses to focus on what they have now, appreciating each moment as unique and special. This simple practice can be the first step to releasing these emotional ties. Moreover, attachment leads us to constantly seek external validation. We want to be recognized, loved, accepted, and so we cling to everything we believe will bring us these rewards. However, by doing so, we move away from our essence and begin to live according to others' expectations. Stoicism teaches that true emotional freedom comes from understanding that our value doesn't depend on others' opinions, but on our own sense of purpose and authenticity. Letting go of these expectations is the path to rediscovering who we truly are. This understanding of attachment also reveals that it is often fueled by the desire for control. We want things to follow a script that we ourselves have created, and when that doesn't happen, disappointment is inevitable. But the modern Stoic understands that life is full of uncertainties and that the only thing we can truly control is our own attitude. Letting go of control means trusting that life has its own rhythm, and that by freeing ourselves from attachment, we allow it to surprise us in ways we never imagined. Letting go, then, isn't about giving up, but about transforming. By letting go of attachment, you don't lose anything. On the contrary, you gain a new perspective. It's like cleaning a foggy mirror. Suddenly, the image you see is clearer, more truthful. The modern Stoic practices letting go as a way to return to their natural state, where inner peace and serenity are priorities. When you stop fighting against the natural flow of life, you begin to discover the potential that has always been within you. And now that we've begun to understand attachment, the question arises: how can we apply this philosophy to our daily lives to find lasting peace? The answer may lie in the practice of Stoic detachment, which we will explore next. Topic 5: Detachment and Stoic philosophy. Stoic philosophy is a true map to emotional freedom, guiding us on a path of detachment that, while difficult, is profoundly liberating. The modern Stoic understands that life is full of uncertainties and that trying to control everything around us is a recipe for frustration. Imagine life as a vast ocean where the waves are the circumstances we cannot predict or control. Stoic detachment teaches us to navigate these waves with serenity, accepting that some things are simply beyond our reach. By focusing only on what we can control, our own actions and reactions, we find a peace that nothing external can shake. One of the central principles of Stoicism is the distinction between what is under our control and what is not. This may seem simple, but it's incredibly powerful. By internalizing this idea, you begin to free yourself from external pressures and the comparisons that often torment us. It's not about being indifferent to what happens around you, but about developing the ability not to be dominated by it. A practical example would be in work situations. Instead of worrying about others' opinions or what might happen tomorrow, the Stoic focuses on doing their best in the present, knowing that the rest is out of their hands. Additionally, Stoicism teaches us that everyone faces their own struggles. No matter how successful or perfect someone's life may seem from the outside, everyone has their own internal challenges. This understanding helps us avoid the trap of comparing our lives to those of others, a practice that often feeds attachment and dissatisfaction. The modern Stoic lives according to their own values without being swayed by external expectations. They understand that everyone is on their own journey and that the true measure of success is inner peace, not others' validation. By adopting Stoic detachment, you also learn to value the present in a way you may have never experienced before. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the power of living in the now, of appreciating the present moment without getting lost in past regrets or future anxieties. This doesn't mean ignoring the future or past mistakes, but rather avoiding letting them dominate your mind and emotions. A simple practice that can help is daily meditation on mortality, a Stoic concept that reminds us of life's impermanence and encourages us to live fully and consciously. Stoic detachment also promotes the idea that true power lies in our ability to choose our reactions. We can't control what others do or say, but we can choose how to respond to it. This practice of emotional control is essential to living a balanced and harmonious life. Imagine yourself in a conflict situation. While most people react impulsively, the Stoic takes a moment to breathe, reflect, and respond in a way that aligns with their values and principles. This self-control is one of the greatest demonstrations of strength and freedom we can achieve. Detaching from comparisons, others' expectations, and external worries doesn't mean you become apathetic or disconnected. On the contrary, the modern Stoic is someone deeply engaged with life, but in a way that is healthy and balanced. They understand that inner peace is a choice, a daily practice that involves accepting what cannot be changed and focusing on what truly matters, our own evolution as human beings. And it is precisely this understanding that allows us to explore detachment in our daily lives with even greater clarity. So how can we bring this Stoic wisdom into our daily lives in a practical and tangible way? That's what we'll see next. Topic 6. Exploring detachment in daily life. In everyday life, detachment can be the key to freeing yourself from many of the pressures we feel. Imagine, for example, that you're holding a rope that's hurting your hands. The more you pull, the more painful it becomes. Now think about how it would feel to simply let go of that rope. The relief would be immediate, right? This is the essence of detachment in daily life. We often hold on tightly to what no longer serves us, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a routine that no longer brings joy. The Stoics teach us that by letting go of what causes us pain, we make room for new opportunities that can lead us to more authentic happiness. But detaching is not something that happens overnight. It's a daily practice, an exercise in self-awareness and courage. Think, for example, of a job that no longer satisfies you, but you feel obligated to keep out of fear of not finding something better. Stoicism suggests that instead of clinging to this fear, you should ask yourself, is this still serving me? Am I growing as a person, or am I just settling? This reflection can be the first step in letting go of what no longer does you good and seeking something more aligned with your life's purpose. Another example of daily detachment is in the field of relationships. We often maintain ties that no longer bring us happiness, whether out of fear of being alone or out of habit. Imagine a friendship that, instead of uplifting you, constantly brings you down. The modern Stoic understands that the true value of a relationship lies in how it contributes to your personal development. If a relationship is draining your energy and preventing you from being the best version of yourself, it may be time to reconsider whether it's worth holding on to that rope. Detachment here means choosing relationships that nourish you, not those that weaken you. However, detachment is not just about letting go, it's also about focusing on what truly matters. Instead of constantly comparing yourself to others, something so common in the age of social media, the Stoic focuses on their own journey. Think of how easy it is to get lost in comparisons. You see someone's perfect life online, and suddenly you feel like your own life is insufficient. But what the modern Stoic knows is that appearances can often be deceiving, and that true happiness is not found in following someone else's steps, but in treading your own path with authenticity. This detachment from external expectations is a powerful relief. By focusing on your own journey, you begin to realize that success is something deeply personal, defined not by others' standards but by your own measure of progress. A practical example would be creating a daily reflection routine where you ask yourself, what did I do today that brought me closer to my goals? This simple habit can help keep your focus on what truly matters, away from the distractions and external pressures that often lead to unnecessary comparisons. Finally, daily detachment is about living with intention. It's consciously choosing where to invest your energy, knowing that time is limited and precious. By letting go of what no longer serves us, whether it's a thought, a worry, or a habit, we make room for a fuller and more meaningful life. This constant practice allows us to live with more freedom and authenticity, aligning our actions with our true values. And it's this freedom that Stoicism offers us, the ability to live a life that is truly ours. Now that we understand how detachment can be applied in daily life, a new reflection arises. How to avoid falling into the trap of social comparison that so often takes us away from this practice of detachment. That's what we'll talk about next. Topic 7. The trap of social comparison. Social comparison is one of the biggest traps that keep us away from detachment and true happiness. Imagine you're running a marathon. Instead of focusing on your own race, you start looking to the sides, observing the performance of other runners. Suddenly, your own journey loses its meaning, and you start feeling inadequate, even if you're doing your best. This is the essence of social comparison. It diverts our attention from what truly matters and traps us in an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. Stoicism teaches that happiness doesn't reside in measuring yourself against others, but in focusing on your own journey and progress. On social media, this trap is even more prevalent. We are constantly bombarded with images of seemingly perfect lives, which can make us feel like we're falling behind. But the modern Stoic knows that what we see online is only a small fraction of reality, often carefully filtered and edited. Real life is full of nuances, ups and downs, that aren't always captured in a social media post. Therefore, instead of comparing yourself to others, the Stoic remembers that everyone is on their own unique trajectory, with their own challenges and victories. It's in this recognition that true peace of mind resides. The pursuit of an illusory perfection, fueled by social comparison, is harmful not only to our self-esteem, but also to our personal development. When we measure ourselves by others' standards, we lose sight of what we truly want and need to be happy. A practical example would be the pursuit of professional success. Instead of following a path that truly excites you, you may feel pressured to pursue something that, in others' eyes, seems ideal. However, the Stoic understands that true success is living according to your own values and passions, regardless of what others might think. Detaching from social comparison is a crucial step to living a more authentic life. Think of how liberating it would be to focus only on your own goals and achievements, without worrying whether they are good enough in others' eyes. The modern Stoic practices detachment by concentrating on their own progress, celebrating their small daily victories. This doesn't mean ignoring others' success, but rather being happy for them without letting it diminish your own value. After all, happiness is not a limited resource. Someone else's success doesn't mean your failure. Moreover, detachment from social comparison allows you to live fully in the present. Comparison often keeps us stuck in the past or anxious about the future, taking our attention away from the now. But life happens in the present, and that's where we should focus our energy. A practical exercise for this is mindfulness, a practice that teaches us to be completely present in each moment, appreciating what we have and where we are now. This practice can be a powerful tool to break the cycle of comparison and bring more serenity to your daily life. Finally, by abandoning social comparison, you open space for gratitude and self-acceptance. Instead of feeling inferior to others, you start valuing your own achievements and qualities. This not only strengthens your self-esteem, but also allows you to live more genuinely, without the pressures of trying to be something you're not. Stoicism teaches us that true satisfaction comes from within, from living a life that is in harmony with our values and purpose. And by practicing detachment from comparisons, we begin to walk this path more consciously and fully. With the trap of social comparison overcome, the next step in the journey to emotional detachment is self-care and cultivating healthy self-esteem. Let's explore that next. Topic 8. Self-care and self-esteem. Taking care of yourself is essential to cultivating solid and healthy self-esteem. Think of your self-esteem as a plant that needs to be watered and nurtured regularly to flourish. Self-care is this vital water, and each act of self-care strengthens your emotional roots, allowing you to grow in a firm and resilient way. The Stoics believed that self-care is not a luxury, but a necessity. It involves both body and mind and goes beyond superficial practices, connecting with a deeper sense of self-worth and self-respect. Often self-care is misunderstood as indulgence or selfishness, but it is actually an act of self-love that prepares us to face life's challenges with more balance. Think about how you feel after a good night's sleep, a nutritious meal, or a moment of silence just for yourself. These small practices may seem simple, but they have a profound impact on how you see yourself and how you deal with the world around you. The modern Stoic knows that dedicating time to yourself is essential to keeping your mind clear and spirit strong, allowing you to live authentically and free from external pressures. Self-care is also closely linked to emotional independence. When you take care of yourself, you are actually reinforcing the idea that your happiness does not depend on others, but on yourself. A practical example of this is setting healthy boundaries in your relationships. Knowing how to say no when necessary without feeling guilty is a powerful form of self-care that protects your energy and well-being. The Stoics practiced this self-discipline, understanding that to be a complete and balanced person, you must first take care of yourself before trying to care for others. Another dimension of self-care is valuing your own achievements, big or small. With the hustle and bustle of daily life, it's easy to forget to celebrate victories, especially those that seem less significant. However, each step taken towards your goals deserves to be recognized. This doesn't mean being complacent, but rather practicing gratitude for how far you've come. By recognizing your own accomplishments, you strengthen your self-esteem, which in turn makes it easier to detach from external expectations and social comparisons. However, self-care should not be confused with isolation. Taking care of yourself also involves cultivating meaningful connections that nourish your soul and bring joy. The Stoics remind us of the importance of maintaining relationships that support us and are based on mutual respect. Engaging in activities that bring you pleasure, like reading a good book, walking in nature, or simply spending time with loved ones, is a way to recharge your energies and keep your self-esteem high. An interesting practice for cultivating self-care is journaling or keeping a diary. At the end of the day, set aside a few minutes to write about your feelings, challenges, and achievements. This not only helps you reflect on your day, but also observe patterns in your life that may be affecting your self-esteem. This Stoic practice of self-reflection is a powerful way to reconnect with yourself and keep focused on what truly matters: your well-being and personal development. And so, with self-esteem strengthened by self-care, you are more prepared to face life's emotional challenges, including the difficult task of letting go in relationships. That will be the next step in our journey. Topic 9. Letting go in relationships. Letting go in relationships is one of the most challenging emotional tasks we can face. The fear of losing someone dear or facing loneliness often keeps us trapped in bonds that no longer serve us. Imagine a bird that, although it has wings, chooses to remain in a cage for fear of the unknown. This is the perfect metaphor for emotional dependency. The modern Stoic understands that true love is not based on possessiveness, but on freedom. Loving someone doesn't mean holding on to them tightly, but allowing them to be free, and for you to be free to grow as well. The practice of detachment doesn't mean you should become cold or distant, but that you should love without losing yourself in love. When we cling excessively, we stop living our own lives to live for the other. A practical example is when someone sacrifices their dreams or well-being for the sake of a relationship, believing that this is proof of love. However, the modern Stoic knows that healthy love doesn't require such sacrifices. Instead, they cultivate a balanced relationship where both parties grow together without losing their individuality. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we are all equal, each with their own battles and challenges. This helps us realize that no matter how much we love someone, we cannot control their actions or feelings. An example of this is when a relationship becomes toxic, yet we remain in it out of fear of what might happen if we leave. The Stoic understands that in such situations, detachment is necessary not only for their own inner peace, but also to allow the other to follow their own path. Letting go is an act of love, both for yourself and for the other. Letting go in relationships also involves understanding that no one is irreplaceable. While this may sound harsh, it's a truth that frees us from emotional dependency. When we believe that we cannot live without someone, we give that person disproportionate power over our lives. The modern Stoic knows that every person who enters our lives has a purpose, but they also know that life goes on with or without that person. This understanding helps us value relationships for what they are, without creating unrealistic expectations that often lead to suffering. A practical exercise for cultivating detachment in relationships is meditation on impermanence, a Stoic concept that reminds us that everything is temporary. By meditating on the transient nature of life, we begin to value the moments we have without clinging to them in an unhealthy way. This allows us to love more fully and genuinely without the chains of fear or possessiveness. Instead of trying to hold on to the other, we learn to appreciate the time we spend together, knowing that true connection is not measured by duration, but by quality. Finally, letting go in relationships opens up space for us to live according to our own values and principles, without losing ourselves in others' expectations. The modern Stoic practice is love with freedom, understanding that each person is responsible for their own happiness. This doesn't mean abandoning or not caring, but rather allowing love to flow naturally and healthily. And when this happens, we discover that relationships can be even more fulfilling because they are based not on need, but on choice. Now that we understand how detachment can transform our relationships, it's time to reflect on the journey to happiness and authenticity. This takes us to the next and final step of this journey. Topic 10. The journey to happiness and authenticity. The journey to happiness and authenticity is, above all, a path of self-knowledge and courage. It's understanding that happiness is not a fixed destination, but a path built step by step, with conscious choices and necessary detachments. Imagine this journey as a mountain trail, sometimes steep, other times gentle, but always leading to a broader and clearer view of life. Stoicism guides us on this path, showing that by letting go of external expectations and focusing on what truly matters, our own evolution, we come closer to a more authentic and fulfilling life. The process of letting go is continuous and requires the courage to face the unknown. Often we're so accustomed to certain situations or people that the mere thought of change scares us. But the modern Stoic understands that true growth only happens outside the comfort zone. It takes courage to let go of what no longer serves us to make room for the new. An example of this is when we decide to leave behind a job that no longer satisfies us, despite the uncertainties that change may bring. This act of detachment is actually a leap toward a life more aligned with our values and purpose. Authenticity, in turn, is the fruit of this detachment process. By freeing yourself from the chains of others' expectations and comparisons, you begin to discover who you really are, without the masks we're often led to wear. Being authentic is living according to your own truths, even if it means swimming against the tide. The Stoics teach us that true happiness is not found in pleasing others, but in being true to yourself. A practical example is choosing to pursue a career or lifestyle that truly resonates with who you are, rather than following what others expect of you. However, this journey is not always easy. The journey to authenticity often involves facing our shadows, our deepest fears, and the parts of us we prefer to ignore. But it is precisely in these moments of challenge that the greatest growth occurs. The modern Stoic welcomes these moments as opportunities to strengthen their mind and spirit. Instead of avoiding discomfort, they face it head-on, knowing that it's through it that a more authentic and meaningful life is achieved. Happiness, therefore, is not a constant pursuit of pleasure or absence of pain, but an acceptance of life as it is, with all its imperfections and uncertainties. Stoicism reminds us that happiness is an internal state, a choice we make every day by deciding to focus on what is within our control and letting go of what is not. This can be practiced daily with small acts like gratitude for what we have, acceptance of circumstances, and dedication to what truly matters to us. Throughout this journey, it's important to remember that detachment doesn't mean disinterest or coldness. On the contrary, it's a deeper and more genuine love, both for ourselves and for others. When we detach, we love without clinging, live without fear, and find happiness not in something external but within ourselves. This is the path to true authenticity, where inner peace and joy are constant companions. And so, with each step on this journey, you come closer to the life you've always wanted. A life where happiness and authenticity are not mere concepts, but tangible realities, built with each conscious choice to let go of what doesn't serve you and embrace what truly matters. If you want to continue learning and developing, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Together, we will explore more ways to achieve a full and balanced life. Don't let this opportunity pass by. Your emotional freedom is within your reach, and it begins now.